I found out my wife was cheating on me because of a butt dial. Not some dramatic confrontation, no lipstick on a collar, no suspicious text message. Just a random pocket call at 2:50 p.m. on a Tuesday while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my home office. "Hello, Ashley," I said into the phone, expecting her to realize the mistake and hang up. Instead, I heard my wife's breathless laughter, followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. "You're incredible. You know that?" My finger hovered over the end call button. I should have hung up. Part of me knew that whatever came next would change everything. "Stop. We can't keep doing this here," Ashley said, but she was giggling. "What if someone sees?" "Let them see. I'm tired of hiding." "Tyler, be serious. My husband. Your husband is clueless. You said so yourself." I sat frozen, the phone pressed against my ear so hard it hurt. The quarterly reports blurred in front of me. Numbers that had seemed important 5 minutes ago now meant absolutely nothing. "He's not clueless. He's just occupied," Ashley said. "Always working, always focused on the business. Sometimes I wonder if he even notices I'm there." That stung worse than the cheating itself. I worked 60-hour weeks building my commercial real estate firm, specifically so Ashley could have the life she wanted. The house in Riverside, Connecticut, the Range Rover, the country club membership she'd insisted would help us network with the right people. "When are you going to tell him?" the man, Tyler, asked. "Soon, I promise. I just need to figure out the right time." "You've been saying that for 3 months?" 3 months. The words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't some new fling, some moment of weakness. This had been going on for a quarter of a year, right under my nose. I know, Ashley said, and I could picture her doing that thing where she twirled her hair around her finger when she was anxious. "But Daniel's been working on this huge deal with the Riverside Plaza development. If I drop this on him now, it could mess everything up." "So what, you're waiting until after he closes the deal? That's convenient." "It's not like that. I need to be smart about this. He handles all our finances. I need to understand what I'm entitled to before I make any moves." My hand started shaking. I fumbled for my laptop, nearly knocking over my coffee mug. My legal mind, honed by years of contract negotiations, kicked into gear even as my personal world crumbled. I needed to document this. Everything. With trembling fingers, I opened the voice recording app on my computer and held my phone up to the microphone. The conversation was still going. Ashley and her lover discussing their next meeting, Thursday afternoon apparently, at some hotel in Stamford. "I should go," Ashley said. "I told Daniel I was meeting Rebecca for lunch. If I'm gone too long, he might actually notice." They laughed together. That casual cruelty, that shared joke at my expense, crystallized something inside me. The shock began hardening into something else, something colder. The call ended. I sat in my office, staring at the recording file on my computer. 4 minutes and 37 seconds that had just blown up my 8-year marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "Running late. Lunch went long. Be home by 5. Love you." Love you. 2 words she'd just said to another man, now casually tossed at me like spare change. I looked around my home office. The framed photo of our wedding day sat on the corner of my desk. Ashley in her white dress, me in my tuxedo, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. That was 2016. We'd been so young, so sure of everything. Another photo showed us at Turks and Caicos last year, her arms around my neck, both of us tanned and happy. Or at least I'd thought we were happy. Apparently, I'd been the only one not acting. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my business partner, Kevin. "Riverside Plaza people want to move the meeting up to Thursday. 2 p.m. work for you?" Thursday at 2 p.m. The same day Ashley would be at a hotel in Stamford with Tyler. I stared at that message for a long moment, then typed back, "Thursday doesn't work. Let's keep it Friday as planned." Because I had other plans for Thursday now, I spent the next hour sitting in that office, not moving, barely breathing. The analytical part of my brain, the part that had built a successful business by the age of 34, began organizing information, cataloging facts, planning next steps. Connecticut was an all-party consent state for recording conversations, which meant the butt dial recording might not be admissible in court. But it didn't matter. I knew the truth now, and I could gather evidence legally. Ashley wanted to be smart about finances before making her move? Fine. Two could play that game. I opened my laptop and started making copies. Bank statements, investment accounts, property deeds, every financial document I could access. I created a new email address she didn't know about and forwarded everything to myself. Then I called my attorney. Not the family lawyer who'd handled our house closing. Ashley knew him. I needed someone she'd never heard of. Whitman and Associates, a receptionist answered. I need to speak with someone about a divorce, I said. The word felt foreign in my mouth. And I need it kept completely confidential. The diabetes app update finished installing at 11:23 p.m. on Friday. Ashley had fallen asleep an hour earlier, her phone charging on the nightstand beside her. I'd volunteered to set up the new device, the latest model with better glucose monitoring, she'd said. Being helpful. Being the attentive husband who didn't notice things. The smart bracelet synced automatically when I powered on the phone. Health data populated first. Blood sugar readings, timestamps, daily averages. All the medical information her endocrinologist needed. Then the app asked if I wanted to restore location services. I tapped yes. The map loaded slowly, dropping pins across Riverside and the surrounding areas. Our house showed multiple markers, expected. The country club had a dense cluster, also normal. Her gym, the grocery store, her favorite lunch spot downtown. Then I saw the concentration of pins in Stamford. Not just Stamford, a specific address on Bedford Street. Apartment building, according to the map label. 17 separate location markers over the past 3 months, each one time-stamped with a glucose reading. 2:15 p.m. on a Wednesday. 3:47 p.m. on a Monday. 11:32 a.m. on a Thursday. The same Thursday she'd met Tyler at the hotel, apparently before their afternoon meeting. The bracelet monitored her blood sugar every 2 hours when she was active. Every reading captured exactly where she was standing. I zoomed in on the Bedford Street location. The pins formed a timeline, a record of repeated visits. Some lasted 20 minutes according to the gaps between readings. Others showed her there for 2 or 3 hours. His apartment. Had to be. I took screenshots of everything. The map overview. The individual pins with their timestamps. The detailed view of Bedford Street showing 17 visits between August and October. Then I went through her photo backup. The app had restored those too. Hundreds of images, automatically sorted by date and location. Most were innocuous. Lunch plates. Sunset photos. Selfies with her friends from the club. But the location data embedded in each file told a different story. 43 photos taken within a 2-block radius of Bedford Street. Not at the address itself, she'd been careful about that, but at nearby restaurants, coffee shops, a wine bar. I found one from September 14th. Ashley smiling at an outdoor cafe table, fall leaves visible in the background. The metadata showed it was taken at 6:47 p.m. on Broad Street in Stamford, 2 blocks from Tyler's building. She'd told me she was having dinner with her college roommate that night. I'd been working late on the Riverside deal, hadn't questioned it. I forwarded everything to my personal email, then to the encrypted folder my attorney had set up. The medical bracelet had created an irrefutable timeline. Every glucose reading was a time-stamped, geolocated data point. No way to claim the readings were wrong. Her health literally depended on their accuracy. Ashley stirred beside me, rolling over but not waking. I kept scrolling through the location history. The pattern was clear once you knew to look for it. Bedford Street visits always occurred on weekday afternoons, usually between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. The times I was reliably at the office or on job sites. She'd built her affair into the safe spaces of my work schedule. Methodical, calculated. The bracelet showed a reading from yesterday, Thursday, at 3:15 p.m., Stamford Marriott, the same hotel she'd mentioned to Tyler in the butt dial recording. The glucose level was slightly elevated, 1018, higher than her normal range. Stress response, maybe. Or excitement. I'd told her I had meetings all afternoon Thursday. Instead, I'd sat in a parking garage across from the Marriott entrance and watched her Range Rover pull in at 2:47 p.m. She'd emerged 3 hours later, hair different than when she'd arrived, makeup refreshed. Tyler had walked out 12 minutes after her, separate exits to maintain the illusion of discretion. I'd photographed both of them. Time-stamped images on my phone, backed up immediately to 3 different cloud services. Now I had her own medical device corroborating the timeline. The app showed one more feature I hadn't noticed initially: a sharing function. Ashley's endocrinologist had access to all this data, monitoring her condition remotely. The doctor could see every location, every reading, the complete history. Which meant the data was stored on medical servers, backed up according to HIPAA regulations, preserved as part of her health records. Even if Ashley deleted everything from her phone, the medical archive would remain. Her affair documented in a database designed to save her life. I finished the phone setup and placed it back on the nightstand, exactly where she'd left it. The bracelet on her wrist pulsed softly with a new reading. 94, perfectly normal for sleeping. The timestamp read 11:51 p.m. Location services confirming we were both home in Riverside. For now. Saturday morning, Ashley slept late. I made coffee and opened my laptop in the kitchen, pulling up the financial documents I'd been compiling all week. My attorney, Richard Palmer, recommended by Kevin's divorce lawyer, had given me a comprehensive checklist. Bank statements going back 3 years, investment account records, property deeds, tax returns, business valuation documents for my firm, retirement accounts, insurance policies, the Riverside Plaza development contracts showing projected revenue. I'd gathered 90% of it already. The remaining items required physical copies from our safe deposit box. Ashley appeared at 9:30, wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, hair pulled back. The smart bracelet caught the morning light. "Coffee?" I asked. "Please." She kissed my cheek, the same casual affection she'd shown for months while sleeping with Tyler. "How'd the phone setup go?" "All done. Everything transferred over. The diabetes app is running perfectly." "You're the best." She poured coffee, added cream. "What are you working on?" "Quarterly projections. Boring spreadsheet stuff." She glanced at my screen. I'd switched to an actual spreadsheet before she entered, and lost interest immediately. "I'm meeting Danielle for yoga at 11, probably lunch after." Danielle, her friend from the club, frequently cited as alibi. I wondered how many Danielle lunches had actually been Tyler afternoons. "Sounds good. I might head to the office for a few hours." "On Saturday?" She raised an eyebrow. "The Riverside deal isn't closing until December." "Prep work. You know how it is." She did know. 8 years of me working weekends, building the business, providing the lifestyle she wanted, the country club membership, the Range Rover, the house in Riverside with the professionally landscaped yard. All of it about to become leverage in a divorce filing. "Don't work too hard," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "Love you." Those words again. Casual, automatic, meaningless. "You too," I replied. She headed upstairs to change. I waited until I heard the shower running, then pulled up the location history one more time on my laptop. The Bedford Street pins stared back at me. 17 small markers representing 17 lies. I added the diabetes bracelet documentation to my attorney folder. Screenshots, metadata analysis, the medical backup confirmation. Then I drafted an email to Richard Palmer with the subject line, "Additional evidence, location data." The shower shut off upstairs. I closed the laptop and finished my coffee, watching October sunlight stream through the kitchen windows. Beautiful fall morning in Connecticut. The kind of day Ashley and I might have spent together once, before 60-hour work weeks, before country club ambitions, before Tyler. Before I'd heard my wife laugh with another man and discuss the strategic timing of our divorce. My phone buzzed. Text from Kevin. "Riverside Plaza final walkthrough Monday 10 a.m. You good?" I typed back, "Confirmed. See you there." The deal was almost done. 3 years of negotiations, planning, construction management. The biggest project my firm had ever handled. Ashley had told Tyler she was waiting for it to close so she could maximize her settlement. She had no idea I'd been documenting everything since Tuesday. No idea the butt dial recording was backed up in 4 locations. No idea her medical bracelet had created an affair timeline that would hold up in any court. No idea that by the time I signed the Riverside Plaza papers, her divorce attorney would be responding to my filing, not initiating one. Ashley came downstairs in yoga clothes, the bracelet snug on her wrist. "See you this afternoon," she said, grabbing her keys. "Have fun." The Range Rover pulled out of the driveway at 10:43. I watched from the window until she turned the corner, then opened my laptop again. Richard Palmer had office hours on Saturday mornings. I had an appointment at noon, time to discuss filing strategy. The Saturday morning light filtered through my office window as I sat at my desk, the phone feeling like a brick in my hand. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that map. 17 red dots clustered around Bedford Street like evidence of a crime scene. Which, legally speaking, it was. I pulled up the bracelet app one more time. The data synchronized automatically with the cloud servers every 6 hours. Ashley's insurance company required it, part of the policy terms for her type 1 diabetes coverage. She'd complained about the privacy implications when the endocrinologist first prescribed it. "They're tracking me like a criminal," she'd said. I'd reassured her then. Told her it was for her safety, that the monitoring could save her life if her glucose levels crashed while she was driving. Now those same privacy concerns were about to save mine. The most recent reading showed her at the country club. 8:47 a.m. Blood sugar, 112 mcDL. Normal range. She'd mentioned something about a Saturday morning spin class with Rachel. Or maybe it was Danielle. I couldn't keep track anymore. Couldn't remember which friends were real and which were alibis. My appointment with Richard Palmer was in 2 hours. I'd spent the entire night organizing documents into labeled folders: financial assets, property records, business valuations, evidence of affair. The affair folder was the thickest. I'd downloaded every data point from the bracelet app going back 6 months. The pattern was unmistakable. Before Tyler, Ashley's locations were predictable: home, country club, grocery store, her mother's house in Darien. Then, 3 months ago, a new location appeared. Bedford Street in Stamford. The first visit lasted 47 minutes. The second, 2 days later, was 93 minutes. By the third week, she was there 3 times a week. The timestamps told their own story. Tuesday afternoons at 2:30 p.m., Thursday mornings at 11 a.m., Saturday evenings at 7:45 p.m. Those were the nights she claimed to have book club. I'd believed her. Every single time. My phone buzzed. Ashley. "Hey, running late. Spin class went long. I'll grab lunch with Rachel after. Be home around 3? I stared at the message, checked the bracelet app. She was still at the country club. Blood sugar reading from 4 minutes ago confirmed it. So this one was true. Or partially true. She was actually at the country club at least. Sounds good. See you then. I added a heart emoji. Two could play that game. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was tracking my wife's location through her medical device while she planned to ambush me with divorce papers. We'd become strangers who monitored each other through apps and lies. I forwarded the text exchange to my encrypted email account. Richard had told me to document everything, even the mundane conversations, especially those. They established pattern and timeline. Judges like narratives, he'd said during our first phone call. Give me a clean story with evidence and we'll make sure you keep what's yours. What's mine? The phrase stuck with me. After 8 years of marriage, what was actually mine versus ours? Connecticut was an equitable distribution state, not community property, which gave us some flexibility. But Ashley would be entitled to a significant portion of everything we'd built. Everything I'd built. She'd worked as a marketing coordinator when we met, pulling in maybe $50,000 a year. Nice enough job, nothing spectacular. After we married, she'd gradually scaled back. First to part-time, then to consulting, which mostly meant helping her mother plan charity events. I'd encouraged it, told her she didn't need to work if she didn't want to. I was making enough for both of us. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. Now she was positioned to walk away with half of a real estate portfolio worth $8 million, plus the Riverside Plaza deal that would close in 6 weeks and net another $3 million in development fees. Not if I moved first. I pulled up the recording app and listened to the butt dial conversation again. 4th time this morning. I'd memorized every word, every pause, every laugh. He has no idea, Ashley had said. That part burned the most. The certainty in her voice. The casual dismissal. Tyler's response, when are you going to tell him? After the Plaza deal closes, my lawyer says timing matters. Connecticut's equitable distribution, so the longer I wait, the better positioned I am. Another 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. I stopped the playback. Checked the timestamp on the recording, Tuesday, 2:47 p.m. Checked the bracelet data from that same day. Bedford Street, Stamford, 2:43 p.m. to 4:18 p.m. Blood sugar readings every 15 minutes, each one stamped with GPS coordinates. The medical data corroborated the audio recording. Any decent attorney could connect those dots. My attorney would be excellent. I'd researched Richard Palmer thoroughly before making contact. 23 years specializing in high-asset divorce cases. 87% success rate for his clients. Former prosecutor who understood evidence chains and documentation. His retainer was $30,000. I'd paid it from my business account on Wednesday, coded as legal consultation, property acquisition. Not technically a lie. I was trying to keep my property. Richard's office was in Greenwich, 40 minutes from Riverside. I'd chosen someone outside our immediate area deliberately. Riverside was small enough that everyone knew everyone. Ashley's yoga instructor was married to my accountant's brother. Our dentist played golf with her father. I needed someone disconnected from our social web. At 10:47, I locked my office door and headed to the garage. Ashley's Range Rover was gone, still at the country club according to the app. I took my Audi, the black A6 I used for client meetings. The drive to Greenwich gave me time to think. To rehearse what I'd say to Richard, how I'd present the evidence. I'd arranged everything chronologically, cross-referenced the audio recording with the location data, highlighted the key statements about timing the divorce. But underneath the preparation was something else. A hollowness I couldn't quite name. 8 years. We'd been married 8 years. I remembered our wedding at the Riverside Yacht Club. Ashley in that dress, the one she'd spent months selecting. Her vows about partnership and forever. My mother crying in the front row. The first dance to a song I couldn't remember anymore. Had any of it been real? The GPS announced my exit. I merged onto Sound Beach Avenue, following the directions to Richard's office. The building was understated. Red brick, brass nameplate, nothing flashy. Exactly what I'd expected. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with silver hair, greeted me with professional warmth. "Mr. Abbott, Mr. Palmer's ready for you." Richard's office was corner suite, windows overlooking Greenwich Harbor. He stood when I entered. Tall, mid-50s, gray suit that probably cost more than my car payment. His handshake was firm. "Daniel, good to meet you in person. Please sit." I settled into the leather chair across from his desk, the folder of evidence balanced on my lap. Richard gestured to it. "That's everything?" "Everything I could compile in 4 days." He raised an eyebrow. 4 days? When did you discover the affair?" "Tuesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. I watched his expression shift. Surprise, then something like respect. "Walk me through it," he said, pulling out a legal pad. So I did. The butt dial, the recording, the bracelet data, the photographs from Thursday, the financial documents I'd copied, the pattern of lies that stretched back 3 months. Richard took notes, occasionally asking questions about timestamps or technical details. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. "The medical bracelet data," he said. "That's permanent? Can't be deleted?" "It's backed up on the insurance company's servers. Part of the policy requirements. She can't access those records. Only her doctor and the insurance company can." "And you have administrator access to the app?" "I set up her account when she got the bracelet. Used my email as the primary contact. She never changed it." Richard smiled. Not a warm smile, a predatory one. Connecticut is a no-fault state, so the affair itself won't impact the divorce terms significantly. But the evidence of her deliberately timing the divorce to maximize her financial gain? That changes things, especially combined with the fact that you've been the primary earner throughout the marriage. He flipped through the financial documents I'd provided. These business valuations, the Riverside Plaza deal specifically. Your wife knows the details? She knows it's my biggest project. She doesn't know the exact numbers. But she knows enough to wait for it to close before filing. That's what she told Tyler. After the Plaza deal closes. Richard made another note. "We need to move quickly. If she's planning to file in 6 to 8 weeks, we file first. Next week, ideally." My stomach tightened. That fast? Speed matters in these situations. Connecticut law requires a 90-day waiting period after filing, but we can use that time to our advantage. Discovery, depositions, settlement negotiations. The sooner we start, the better positioned you are. He pulled out a different form, slid it across the desk. "This is a motion for exclusive possession of the marital residence. Given your wife's affair and her stated intention to divorce you for financial gain, we can argue that you should remain in the house during proceedings. She can find alternative accommodation." I stared at the form. Our house, the Colonial on Riverside Avenue we'd bought in 2018. Ashley had chosen every paint color, every piece of furniture. She'll know something's wrong the moment I serve her. "Yes," Richard said simply. "That's unavoidable. But by then, we'll have already filed, already frozen the joint accounts, already established your legal position. She'll be reacting to us, not the other way around." He leaned forward. "Here's what happens next. You go home today and act normal. Tomorrow, Monday morning, we file the divorce petition with the Superior Court. Tuesday afternoon, a process server delivers the papers to your wife. By Tuesday evening, she'll know you know. 4 days. In 4 days, my marriage would be officially over." "What about the Riverside Plaza deal?" I asked. "We'll argue it's a business asset developed primarily through your efforts during the marriage. Connecticut courts consider multiple factors: length of marriage, contribution of each spouse, earning capacity. Your wife stopped working years ago. You built the business. That matters. He tapped the folder of evidence. And this, the recording, the location data, her own words about timing the divorce for financial gain, this shows intent to defraud you of marital assets. It won't guarantee you keep everything, but it significantly strengthens your position. I nodded slowly. Tried to process the timeline, the strategy, the reality of what came next. Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at me. One more thing. Between now and Tuesday, don't confront her. Don't change your behavior. Don't give her any reason to suspect you know. Can you do that? I thought about Ashley at the country club right now, probably having lunch with Rachel or whoever she was actually with. Thought about her coming home at 3, kissing me hello, asking about my day, lying with the same face she'd worn for 3 months. I can do that, I said. The weekend stretched like taffy. Every hour felt elastic, warping between racing anxiety and glacial dread. Saturday evening, Ashley suggested we watch a movie. She curled up against me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, her hand resting on my chest. I could smell her shampoo, that same vanilla scent she'd worn since we started dating. My arm around her shoulders felt mechanical, like I was operating my own body remotely. "This is nice," she murmured during a quiet scene. "We should do this more often." I made some non-committal sound. On screen, the couple was laughing about something. I had no idea what the movie was about. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then set it face down on the coffee table. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just Danielle. She wants to do brunch tomorrow." Ashley nestled closer. I told her maybe next week. "Danielle, or Tyler, or whoever." "You should go," I said. "Don't cancel on my account." "I'd rather spend the day with you." She tilted her face up, smiling. "We've both been so busy lately." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't heard that conversation, hadn't seen those location pins, I would have believed every word. Maybe that was the worst part, realizing how good she was at this. How long had she been this good? Sunday morning, she made pancakes. Blueberry, my favorite. She hummed while she cooked, her bracelet catching the light as she flipped them. That same bracelet that had documented every lie. "I was thinking," she said, sliding a plate in front of me, "maybe we could take a trip soon, get away for a long weekend." "Where were you thinking?" "I don't know. Somewhere warm? We haven't been anywhere since Turks and Caicos." She sat across from me, pouring syrup. "That was what, 2 years ago?" "Almost 3. "God, really?" she laughed. "Time flies. But you've been working so hard on the Riverside deal. You deserve a break." There it was, the Riverside deal. Always circling back. "Maybe after it closes," I said. "When's that supposed to happen?" "Few more weeks, month at most." She nodded, cutting into her pancakes. "That'll be such a relief. I know it's been stressful." I watched her eat. Watched her dab syrup from the corner of her mouth. Watched her check her phone again. "I need to run to the office for a few hours," I said. "Some documents I want to review before the week starts." "On Sunday?" she frowned. "Daniel, you're always working." "Just for a bit. 2 hours, tops." She sighed but didn't argue. "Fine. I'll probably go to the gym anyway." The gym. Right? I drove to the office but didn't go inside. Instead, I sat in the parking lot and called Richard Palmer. He answered on the second ring. "Daniel, everything all right?" "Just checking that we're still on track for tomorrow. 9 a.m. sharp. Filing opens at 9. We'll be first in line." His voice was steady, reassuring. "Process server will have the papers by noon. She'll be served Tuesday morning at your residence." "And you're sure about the timing?" "Daniel, I've walked you through this 3 times. The timing is perfect. She won't know what hit her. I closed my eyes. What if she suspects something? Does she have any reason to suspect? No, I don't think so. Then she won't. People see what they expect to see. He paused. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You don't have to be fine. I'm fine, I repeated. I'll see you tomorrow morning. I hung up before he could say anything else. When I got home, Ashley's car was gone. The house felt hollow, every room echoing. I stood in our bedroom doorway, looking at the bed we'd shared for 8 years. The framed wedding photo on her nightstand, her jewelry box, the one I'd given her for our 5th anniversary. In 24 hours, everything would detonate. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. Running late, stopping for groceries. Need anything? I typed back, no thanks. She replied with a heart emoji. I sat on the edge of the bed and waited. Sunday night, we ate the dinner she'd cooked, chicken piccata, another favorite, and talked about nothing. The weather, a news story she'd seen, whether we should replace the living room curtains. You're quiet tonight, she said, refilling my wine glass. Tired. Long week. Well, hopefully this week will be easier. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. I'm proud of you, you know. Everything you've built. Everything we've built, she meant. Community property. Connecticut was an equitable distribution state, not community property, but the principle was the same. She'd done her research. Thanks, I said. That night, she fell asleep quickly, her breathing deep and even. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the hours, counting the minutes. At 2:47 a.m., exactly 1 week since the butt dial, I got up and went to my office. I pulled up the encrypted files one more time, the location data, the photographs, the financial records. Everything organized, backed up, ready. My phone sat on the desk, silent. In a few hours, I'd be sitting across from Richard Palmer, signing the final documents. In a few hours, this would be real. I thought about calling someone, my brother, my business partner, anyone. But what would I say? That my wife had been screwing someone else for 3 months while planning to divorce me for maximum financial gain? That I'd known for a week and said nothing? The house creaked around me. Old bones settling. At 5:30 a.m., I showered and dressed. Navy suit, white shirt, red tie, armor. Ashley was still asleep when I left. I stood in the bedroom doorway for a moment, watching her. Her hair fanned across the pillow, one arm thrown over her head. She looked peaceful, innocent. I pulled the door closed quietly and left. Richard Palmer's office was in downtown Stamford, a glass tower overlooking the harbor. I arrived at 8:15. The receptionist, a woman named Patricia, who I'd met during my first consultation, offered coffee. I accepted, though I didn't drink it. Richard appeared at 8:30, crisp in a charcoal suit, carrying a leather portfolio. Ready? He asked. I nodded. His office was all dark wood and law books, diplomas from Yale and Columbia on the wall. He laid out the documents on his desk, the divorce petition, the financial affidavits, the motion for temporary orders. I need you to review everything one more time, he said. Make sure it's all accurate. I read through each page. My name, her name, our marriage date, the grounds for divorce, the list of assets, the house, the cars, my business interests, bank accounts, investment portfolios, the request for equitable distribution, the evidence appendix, listing the location data, the photographs, the timeline. It was all there, everything. This is correct, I said. Sign here, here, and here. He indicated the lines. My hand was steady as I signed. Daniel Abbott. Daniel Abbott. Daniel Abbott. All right, Richard gathered the documents, sliding them into the portfolio. I'll walk these over to the courthouse myself. Should be filed by 9:15. And the process server? We'll have copies by noon. She'll serve Ashley tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at your residence. I recommend you not be there. I'll go to the office early. Good. He stood, extending his hand. This is the hard part, Daniel. After tomorrow, you'll have clarity, control. I shook his hand. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a fight ahead. I left his office at 8:50. By the time I reached my car, the courthouse would be open. By the time I started the engine, my marriage would be officially, legally over. I sat in the parking garage for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel. Then I drove to my office and waited for the world to end. The process server's name was Gloria Martinez, and she cost me $300. Richard recommended her specifically. Former cop, unflappable, experienced with hostile subjects. She'd serve Ashley the papers Tuesday morning at 9:15 a.m. at our house, while I'd be safely at my office with witnesses around me. I didn't sleep Monday night. Lay there in bed next to Ashley, listening to her breathe, wondering if she was really asleep or just pretending like I'd been pretending all week. The digital clock on my nightstand cycled through the hours. 11:47, 1:23, 3:09, 4:56. At some point she rolled over, her arm draping across my chest like it had 1,000 times before. An automatic gesture, muscle memory from 8 years of sharing a bed. I stared at the ceiling and didn't move until the alarm went off at 6:30. Tuesday morning proceeded with surreal normalcy. Ashley made coffee. I pretended to review emails on my phone while actually tracking Gloria's location. She'd sent me a link to follow her progress. Ashley asked if I wanted eggs. I said no, just toast. She hummed while loading the dishwasher, some pop song I didn't recognize. Big day? She asked, glancing over her shoulder. Just the usual. My voice sounded steady. You? Lunch with Brittany at noon. Then I might stop by the spa. She smiled. My shoulders have been so tense lately. I bet they have, I thought. Keeping up a double life takes effort. At 8:47, I kissed her goodbye. She turned her face so my lips caught her cheek instead of her mouth, a small thing I wouldn't have noticed a week ago. Now it felt like confirmation. Love you, she said automatically. You too. The lie tasted like copper. I drove to the office, parked in my reserved spot, rode the elevator to the 4th floor. My assistant, Jennifer, had already started the coffee maker. The smell made my stomach turn. You okay? She asked. You look pale. Didn't sleep great. Too much on my mind with the Riverside deal. She nodded sympathetically. The closing documents came through. I put them on your desk. I thanked her and closed my office door. Sat down. Opened my laptop without seeing it. Gloria's location showed her 2 blocks from my house. 9:12 a.m., 1 block away. 9:14 a.m., my driveway. My phone stayed silent. I'd told Gloria not to call unless there was a problem. No call meant everything was proceeding as planned. I imagined the doorbell ringing. Ashley answering, probably still in her yoga pants and one of my old college sweatshirts she liked to wear around the house. Gloria's professional smile. Ashley Abbott, you've been served. At 9:23, my phone buzzed. A text from Gloria. Delivered. Subject accepted service. No issues. That was it. 8 years of marriage, officially over. Or at least, officially ending. I set the phone down, picked it up, set it down again. My hands weren't shaking this time. I felt oddly hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just the shell. Jennifer knocked. Daniel? Your 9:30 is here. Right? The Riverside Plaza investors. I'd almost forgotten. Give me 2 minutes. I stood, straightened my tie, checked my reflection in the window. Same face as yesterday. Same face as last week. Nobody looking at me would know my marriage had just imploded. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. I presented the quarterly projections, answered questions about zoning variances and construction timelines, shook hands with men in expensive suits who cared only about their return on investment. I was articulate, prepared, confident. Nobody suspected a thing. When they left, I checked my phone. Nothing from Ashley. That surprised me. I'd expected, what? Angry texts? Tearful calls? Radio silence felt wrong, somehow. Too calm. At 11:47, my phone finally rang. Ashley's name on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hey, Daniel. Her voice was ice. We need to talk. I'm at work. I know where you are. Come home, now. I have meetings all... Cancel them. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone. Richard had been explicit. Don't engage, don't go home alone, don't have any conversations without him present. But curiosity gnawed at me. What was her play here? Anger? Tears? Denial? I called Richard. She wants me to come home, I said. Absolutely not. Don't go anywhere near her without me present. She's probably with her own attorney right now, and they're strategizing. Any conversation you have can and will be used against you. What if she's just upset and wants to talk? Then she can be upset. Daniel, listen to me. The next few days are critical. She's going to try every tactic. Crying, rage, bargaining, maybe even seduction. Don't fall for it. We filed first, we have the evidence, we control the narrative. Don't give that away. He was right. Of course he was right. Okay, I said. Good. I'll contact her attorney once she retains one. All communication goes through legal counsel from this point forward. You don't talk to her, you don't text her, you don't respond to emails. Clear? Clear. After we hung up, I stared at my computer screen without seeing it. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Ashley. I declined it. Then a text. You're really not going to talk to me? I turned the phone face down on my desk. Jennifer knocked again. Your wife is here. My stomach dropped. What? She's in the lobby, says it's urgent. Of course she'd come here. I should have anticipated that. Ashley had never been the type to accept being ignored. Tell her I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed. Jennifer hesitated. She seems really upset, Daniel. She's crying. Perfect. The tears tactic, right on schedule. I don't care if she's on fire. I'm not available. Jennifer's eyebrows rose, but she nodded and left. Through my office window, I could see down to the building's front entrance. 5 minutes later, Ashley emerged onto the sidewalk. Even from 4 floors up, I could see her shoulders shaking. She stood there for a long moment, then pulled out her phone. Mine buzzed. I didn't look at it. She got in her Range Rover, the one I'd bought her 2 years ago for her birthday, and drove away. The texts started coming rapid fire after that. How could you do this? We need to talk about this like adults. You're being ridiculous. I deserve an explanation. At least tell me why. That last one almost made me laugh. She deserved an explanation. The audacity was breathtaking. I forwarded all the messages to Richard without responding. At 2:15 p.m., my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Abbott, this is Diane Foster. I'm representing your wife in the dissolution of your marriage. That was fast. Ashley had already lawyered up. You'll need to speak with my attorney, Richard Palmer. I have his information. I'm calling as a courtesy to see if we might resolve this amicably before things become contentious. I think we're past that point. Mr. Abbott, I understand you're hurt, but Ms. Foster, with all due respect, direct all communication through my legal counsel. Have a good day. I hung up. My hand was shaking now. Not from fear or sadness, but from adrenaline. This was really happening. The machinery was in motion, and there was no stopping it. Richard called 10 minutes later. Diane Foster just contacted me, he said. She's good, expensive. Ashley must have called her the second she got served. What did she say? The usual opening salvo. Wants to negotiate an equitable settlement, avoid a drawn-out court battle, preserve whatever dignity remains. I told her we'd consider any reasonable proposal, but that we have substantial documentation of adultery, and that Connecticut law doesn't look kindly on marital misconduct when dividing assets. How did she respond? She asked what documentation. I told her she'd find out during discovery. That seemed to rattle her. Good, I thought. Let her sweat. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait. She'll either come back with a settlement proposal or we proceed to formal discovery. Either way, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get ugly. The medical bracelet sat in a clear plastic evidence bag on Richard's desk, looking innocent and clinical. Ashley had left it behind when she'd packed her things from the house over the weekend, probably forgotten in her rush to grab clothes and toiletries. I'd found it on her nightstand Sunday evening, right next to the framed photo of us in Nantucket from 2 summers ago. The data's comprehensive, Richard said, tapping his pen against a printed spreadsheet. 17 documented visits to the Bedford Street address between August 3rd and October 20th. Each entry includes GPS coordinates, timestamps, and her glucose readings at the time of measurement. I leaned back in the leather chair across from his desk. And that holds up legally? Connecticut is a 2-party consent state for audio recordings, but GPS data from a medical device? Richard smiled slightly. That's just factual information. She wore the device voluntarily. The manufacturer's terms of service clearly state that location data is collected and stored. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy. Through Richard's office window, downtown Stamford looked gray under November clouds. 2 weeks since the butt dial. Felt like 2 years. Diane Foster called again this morning, Richard continued. 3rd time since Friday. Ashley wants to talk to you directly. What did you tell her? Same thing I told her the previous 2 times. All communication goes through counsel. Diane's getting frustrated, which means Ashley's panicking. He flipped through another document. They've had our asset disclosure for 4 days now. Foster knows the Plaza deal closes in 3 weeks. She's trying to figure out her strategy. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ashley. I didn't read it, just held up the screen so Richard could see. 53 messages since Tuesday, I said. Calls, texts, even an email to my work address. Don't respond to any of it. Don't even read them. Richard's expression was serious. I know it's difficult, but any direct communication muddies the water. She's looking for leverage, for some emotional opening she can exploit. I pocketed the phone. What's Foster's likely move? She'll argue for a 50-50 split of marital assets. Standard approach. She might push for temporary spousal support while the divorce processes, claim Ashley needs funds for living expenses. Richard tapped the evidence bag. But this bracelet data, combined with the recording of her discussing strategy with Tyler, that's going to make her case significantly harder. The recording's admissible? The butt dial? Absolutely. You were an unintended party to a conversation, but you didn't illegally intercept anything. She called you, even if accidentally. Connecticut courts have upheld similar recordings. He paused. The content is what matters. Her own words, discussing how she planned to time the divorce to maximize her financial gain. That demonstrates calculated deception, which plays very poorly in equitable distribution. A paralegal knocked and entered with another file folder. Richard thanked her and opened it, scanning the contents. Tyler Patterson, he said. Your investigator pulled his information. 29 years old, works at a marketing firm in Stamford, divorced himself about 18 months ago. Lives in that Bedford Street apartment, rents it month to month. Richard looked up. Did you know him before? Never heard the name until that phone call. Ashley met him at the country club, according to the investigator's notes. He joined last spring, uses the tennis courts. Richard closed the folder. Diane Foster might try to minimize the affair's relevance, argue that Connecticut is a no-fault divorce state and infidelity shouldn't impact asset distribution. But judges are human. And when infidelity is paired with financial manipulation and deliberate deception, it influences their perception of equitable distribution. The law says marital misconduct shouldn't be a primary factor, but it's absolutely a factor. He met my eyes. Especially when we can document that she was planning to deceive you about timing specifically to increase her settlement. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Then a third time in rapid succession. Richard frowned. That's more aggressive than before. I pulled out the phone. 5 new texts, all from Ashley. I broke my own rule and opened them. Daniel, please just talk to me. This is insane. We can work this out. You're being cruel and you know it. I deserve a chance to explain. Call me, now. That last one arrived while I was reading the others. She's escalating, Richard observed, reading over my shoulder. That's desperation. Or anger. Probably both, he sat back. Foster's likely advised her to stop contacting you, but Ashley's not listening. That's good for us. Shows lack of control, poor judgment. My phone rang, Ashley's name on the screen. I declined the call. Immediately, it rang again. Want me to have my assistant answer? Richard asked. Put her on speaker, document what she says? I declined the second call. Not yet. The phone stayed silent for maybe 30 seconds. Then a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Tyler. We need to talk. Ashley's a mess and you're making this worse than it needs to be. I showed Richard. Interesting, he said slowly. Very interesting. Save that. Don't respond, but definitely save it. Why is he contacting me? Because Ashley probably asked him to, or because he's worried about his own exposure. Richard made a note on his legal pad. If this goes to trial, Tyler could be called as a witness. He won't want that. Bad for his reputation, his career, his social standing. He's got motivation to push for a quick, quiet settlement. Can we use that? Possibly. Depends on how things develop. Richard checked his watch. Diane Foster and I have a call scheduled for tomorrow morning. She's going to present Ashley's initial settlement proposal. Based on her previous calls, I'm expecting her to push hard for a quick resolution. What are you going to tell her? That we'll review any proposal carefully and respond in due time. That we have substantial documentation of misconduct and strategic deception. That we're prepared to present all evidence in court if necessary. He smiled thinly. Essentially, that Ashley's timeline for divorce has been permanently disrupted and she's no longer controlling the process. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. You're acting like a child? Ashley made a mistake, but you're being vindictive. Grow up. I felt anger spike in my chest, hot and sharp. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. Don't, Richard said quietly. That's exactly what they want. An emotional response they can document and use against you. I set the phone face down on his desk. Good, Richard said. Let me handle Tyler if he keeps pushing. Any response should come from counsel, not from you directly. The phone buzzed twice more in the next minute. I didn't look. The Plaza deal, I said, changing the subject. Closing's November 29th, 3 weeks from yesterday. And Ashley knew that timeline. She knew everything. I told her about it back in June when we first started negotiations. She knew it was the biggest deal my firm had ever put together. The bitterness in my voice surprised me. She sat through dinners where I talked about the financing, the zoning approvals, the tenant commitments. She smiled and asked questions and acted interested. While planning to divorce you the moment it closed. While planning to maximize what she could take from it. Richard was quiet for a moment. The recording makes that clear. Her own words. Wait until the Plaza deal closes, then file. His firm's equity value will be highest then. He glanced at his notes. She discussed it like a business transaction. That's what I was to her. A transaction. That's what the marriage became at some point. Richard's tone was careful. The question now is protecting what you've built and ensuring she doesn't benefit from her own misconduct. My phone rang again. Ashley. I declined it without hesitation this time. She's not going to stop, I said. No, probably not. Not until Foster convinces her it's damaging her case. Richard made another note. Document everything. Every call, every text, every contact from Tyler or anyone else she might send. It all builds the pattern of harassment and poor judgment. When do we respond to her proposal? After I hear what Foster offers tomorrow. After we've evaluated it against the evidence we have and the likely court outcome. He met my eyes. This isn't about revenge, Daniel. It's about ensuring a fair outcome based on the actual circumstances of the marriage's dissolution. Fair. The word felt hollow. Nothing about this was fair, but I nodded anyway. The Plaza deal closed on a Thursday morning in late November, 3 weeks ahead of schedule. I signed the final documents in a conference room overlooking Long Island Sound, while my attorney and business partner witnessed. The wire transfer hit my firm's account at 11:47 a.m. $3.2 million in development fees, plus ongoing equity stakes that would generate income for years. Ashley's attorney received notification of the closing that same afternoon. By Connecticut law, assets acquired during marriage were subject to equitable distribution, but the timing worked in my favor. I'd filed first. The financial disclosures were already complete. And most importantly, the evidence of her calculated deception had already poisoned any sympathy a judge might have felt. The divorce was finalized on February 14th. Valentine's Day, of all the ironic dates the court could have scheduled. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Brennan, who'd spent 30 years on the family court bench. She'd reviewed everything: the bracelet data, the butt dial recording, the timeline of deception, the financial records showing I'd been the sole earner for the past 4 years. Ashley got the Range Rover and $240,000, roughly 15% of the marital assets. No spousal support. No claim to my business or the Plaza deal proceeds. Judge Brennan had been particularly unimpressed by the recording where Ashley discussed timing the divorce for maximum financial gain. This court recognizes Connecticut's no-fault divorce statute, Judge Brennan had said from the bench, reading from her decision. However, equitable distribution requires consideration of multiple factors, including the conduct of each party during the marriage and the economic circumstances each party contributed to or detracted from. The evidence demonstrates a pattern of deliberate deception and strategic manipulation that this court cannot ignore when determining what constitutes an equitable outcome. Ashley had cried during the hearing. Real tears, not the performance kind. Her attorney had argued passionately about fairness and partnership and the years Ashley had dedicated to our marriage. None of it mattered once the judge heard Ashley's own voice on that recording, casually discussing how to maximize her settlement. Tyler stopped contacting me after his third message went unanswered. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he and Ashley dated for another 2 months after the divorce filing, then quietly split. Apparently, an affair built on deception and hotel rooms doesn't translate well to actual relationship stability. Who knew? I kept the house. Bought out Ashley's equity claim with part of the settlement money. Some nights I still expected to hear her footsteps in the hallway or smell her vanilla shampoo in the bathroom. Then I'd remember the 17 red dots on that map, the casual cruelty in her voice, the calculated timeline she'd constructed. The memory made the empty house feel less lonely. Kevin and I expanded the firm after Plaza closed successfully. took on 2 junior partners, opened a second office in Hartford. The business I'd built while Ashley was at book club and lunch with friends became the foundation for something larger than I'd originally imagined. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I wasn't in a hurry. Every relationship carries risk, that's unavoidable. But I learned to recognize the difference between partnership and performance, between someone building with you and someone calculating what they can extract from you. The medical bracelet sat in a safe deposit box at my bank, preserved as evidence even though the case was closed. Sometimes I thought about that technology, how something designed to save Ashley's life had instead documented its secret architecture. How the same tools we use to protect ourselves can reveal the truths we'd rather keep hidden. There's a lesson in that, probably. About surveillance and privacy, about the digital shadows we all cast without realizing it. But the real lesson was simpler and harder. People show you who they are if you're willing to see it. The late nights Ashley spent at the gym. The way she'd started angling her phone away when texting. The careful questions about my business deals and their closing dates. The signs were always there. I'd just been too busy building something to notice it was being appraised for demolition. On the 1-year anniversary of the butt dial, I took myself to dinner at an expensive steakhouse downtown. Ordered the good wine, the ribeye, the dessert I never let myself have. Raised a glass to absolutely nothing and no one. The waitress asked if I was celebrating something. "Just Tuesday," I said. She laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. Because that's what it had become, finally. Just another Tuesday. The anger had faded. The betrayal had scabbed over. What remained was simply the knowledge that I'd survived something designed to destroy me, and I'd come out the other side with everything that actually mattered. Not the marriage. That was smoke and mirrors, a performance I'd mistaken for partnership. But the business I'd built, the home I'd earned, the clarity that comes from seeing exactly who someone is when they think you're not paying attention. Ashley sent me a message 6 months after the divorce finalized. Just 3 words. "I'm sorry, Daniel." I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. Some apologies come too late to mean anything. Some bridges burn so completely that the ashes aren't worth sifting through for salvageable pieces. I learned that marriage isn't about trust alone. It's about choosing someone whose character makes trust reasonable. That love without integrity is just a pleasant fiction that eventually collides with reality. That the person who plans your betrayal while sleeping beside you every night has already left. You're just the last to know. And I learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you clears the ground for something better to grow. Not immediately, not without pain. But eventually, if you're patient and deliberate and willing to see clearly instead of hopefully. The recording sat in my encrypted files, backed up in 3 locations. I'd never listen to it again. Didn't need to. The words were carved into memory deeper than any audio file could preserve. But I kept it anyway. Not as a wound to pick at, but as a reminder. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When the evidence contradicts the performance, trust the evidence. And when you discover you've been building your life on a foundation of lies, sometimes the only option is to tear it down and start over. I did exactly that. And on the other side of destruction, I found something Ashley's deception had inadvertently given me. The freedom to build something real, with eyes wide open and no illusions left to shatter. That wasn't the ending I'd imagined on that Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang and my world inverted. But it was the ending I earned. And that made all the difference.